Hey guys, okay, back in the shop here today. Just gonna do a video on building a fence gate. There's millions of different ways to build fence gates, but I'm gonna show you one way. And this gate actually matches a fence we just did. So it's gonna be out of pressure treated lumber. And yeah, we'll kind of go through building it, and hopefully it's something that can help you out with the project you're working on. So let's get to it. Okay, so this gate is going to be 6 feet tall by 39.5 inches wide. It's one of two gates in a double swinging gate system. So yeah, it's going to be 39.5 inches wide. So the first step is we're going to be cutting the two side vertical supports. So we're going to put a 45 on this. And this is 2x4 pressure treated lumber. Okay, next we're going to cut our two horizontal pieces, top and bottom. These are the ones with the 45. So they'll be 39.5. I know we're cutting on a miter saw here, but I like to mark these angled cuts first with a speed square. That way you can know immediately where to drop the blade, as opposed to just making the mark and trying to line the blade up with a side mark or something like that. It ends up being a lot more accurate. Okay, and then the last piece we need to cut is the middle horizontal piece. So it's just going to be cut square. And we're going to make that 7 inches shorter, and you'll see why as we go along. So 32.5. Okay, so our gate is ultimately going to end up looking like this. So find a flat spot on the floor. A table would be better, but I don't have the table in here right now. So this is actually upside down for you, but this is how the fence is going to end up looking. So in here will be fence boards, and here will be lattice. So what we have to do now you can build a gate like this, and you could just put the boards right on here all the way. And then the lattice, I don't know, you could use like strips here or something like that to hold the lattice in. But we're going to router everything out just to make it a little nicer. So what we have to do first is we need to router right here to accept the lattice. So let's do that first. So I'm going to clamp this in the vise. And I'm going to measure 12 inches down because I know my section of lattice is approximately like 11 3/4. So we just have to go a little bit further so that it catches it all. You'll see what I mean when we put it together. So we'll go 12 inches, and this will depend on the size of your, or the height of your gate, or how much lattice you want. So this can change a bit. It's just a guide mark. It doesn't have to be super accurate. Then we're going to go to our router. I've already got the router set up with the guide on it here. So this will ride along the side of the 2x4, and it'll keep the bit at the right distance from the, or it'll keep the bit right where we want it. So for this particular notch right here, we're using a 1/2 inch router bit, and we're going 5/8 deep, and we're putting it right in the center of the board. And the reason I'm going with a 1/2 inch router bit is because the lattice itself is just under a 1/2 inch thick, so it gives us a little bit of wiggle room. It's actually 3/8, so it gives us a 1/16 of an inch on each side. And if you've ever worked with lattice, that actually isn't a lot. It'll end up still being tight when you slide it into the groove. So first thing we want to do is make sure the center of this bit is exactly 2 or 3/4 of an inch from the guide, which will end up making the groove right in the center of the board. So let's do that. So we're going to loosen these adjustment screws here, and we'll put the bit like that, and then we'll use this knob to adjust. So we want to be 3/4 of an inch to the center, just about there, and then tighten it down. Now this bit's getting pretty worn out. It's gone through probably 200 feet of board. So this is the last gate. I'm just probably going to get rid of it after this. Okay, so next we need to make the same groove in this side of the board and this side of this board. So let's do that now. So now we've just grooved this board. We need to groove it on this side, but in a different way, and same with down there.
Okay, so the camera stopped recording for the part where I groove the lower section of the gate. But basically all I did here, and you can kind of see, is I put a groove in the lower piece and the horizontal middle piece, the bottom of it. So that groove is 3/4 of an inch wide by 5/8 deep, same depth as the other ones, but 3/4 of an inch wide to accommodate the 5/8 fence board, and then have a little bit of room to slide it down in case the fence boards are cupped or they're twisted or something like that. And that groove is not centered on the 2x4 like the other ones were. This one's actually offset by 5/8 of an inch. And it'll make more sense when you see it later, but that's to accommodate the diagonal brace board that we're going to put in, and it'll allow it to be flush with the edge of the gate panel. So it'll make more sense when you see it, but that's really all the camera missed. And all I'm doing here is just applying some wood preservative to the exposed cuts and grooves. Because this is pressure treated wood from the factory, it's that brown color because it has a treatment on it. But like I said, anytime you groove it or cut it or expose the wood underneath, you should put that treatment back on, and makes the wood last a lot longer.
Okay, so next step is starting to kind of construct the frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay it down on the ground. Try to find a flat spot on your floor, or a flat table would be better. And we're going to join these corners together with screws first. So let's do that. Okay, so this is how I join these 45 corners together. Now you got to keep in mind that this whole, even though it's two little screws are going to be going in here, this whole gate is going to be a unit once it all comes together. So it may not seem strong now, but once it's all built, it'll be pretty rigid. So what we're going to do is make sure that's a nice tight joint there. And we're going to pre-drill. And I use these 4-inch outdoor approved wood screws. So whenever you're using fasteners in pressure treated lumber, so pressure treated lumber is basically treated with ACQ, it's called. It's like alkaline copper quaternary or something like that. It'll actually eat through or cause just steel hardware to just corrode faster than it would if it was untreated. So you got to use fasteners that are approved for pressure treated wood. So that'd be things like these coated screws, stainless steel screws, hot dip galvanized nails, that type of thing. Usually it says on the packaging. So get that corner in. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put one fence board in here, and that'll give us the proper distance for this here. So the length of these boards is kind of personal preference, because you can make them whatever you like. It just depends on your particular fence design. So we're going to put this in here. Okay, now one thing you could do to make this fence incredibly rigid, but I don't think it's really necessary. It's a little bit overkill. But you could groove out right here as well, but it doesn't make a huge difference in the actual strength of the fence, because you're really only holding this board here. It's more important that we hold the ends of these boards, and once they dry out, if they're good quality boards, they won't have too much bowing happening in them. And the cross piece that we're going to put down here stops any bowing in the middle as well. So put this on like this. We're going to make sure that's down there nice, everything's tight. And then we're going to put one pin or one screw through here to kind of hold this in this direction here. So we'll find the middle of that. We're going to pre-drill to about there. So this screw is actually going to end up being like that. So you've got all the threaded part right into the piece you're pulling. And then the head of the screw will be where the end of that bit was. Okay, so that's together. So now we can start putting boards in. I just got to cut 5 more boards for this. so what we'll do now is stand this up, put it against that, and we're going to start putting these boards in. And sometimes this just works out. Get to your last board and it's too long, you're going to have to rip it. So there's no point me putting in a tiny little strip here because it's not going to look great. What we'll do is we'll put this final framing piece on, and then we'll just separate each board just a tiny little bit. When they dry, they're going to shrink anyway, and then that'll make up this gap. Make sure these are all down. Make sure this is tight here. So we're going to measure for our lattice now, keeping in mind that we have to add, because these grooves are 5/8 of an inch, so we'll add an inch, let's say, to the total width and height of our piece of lattice. So right here, the clear opening is 10 7/8, so we'll cut the lattice 11 7/8 by, this is 32.5, so we'll make it 33.5. Okay, now we'll put on our piece here. Okay, we'll secure that corner first. Okay, and then we're just going to separate these fence boards so they're all even. Okay, so the next step is going to be making sure the gate is square. So I don't mean like a square, but I mean it has 90-degree corners. So we're going to put this tape here to measure corner to corner. So here we have 82 1/4 and 82. So that's pretty good, but we're going to move it just a little bit just to make sure it's perfectly square. So you stand it up. You stand it up and just twist it in the direction that you think it needs to go. And then check it again. So there we got 82 1/8. And 82 1/8. So these are exactly 90-degree corners now. So we're going to lay it back down carefully without twisting it. And we're going to put our cross piece. Okay, so we're going to put in our diagonal bracing in this orientation right here. So the reason I'm doing this is because the hinge side of this side of the double gate is going to be over here, and so that's going to be where your fence post is, and this point here is going to be where the latch and the two gates meet. So what the fence is always trying to do, and so I'm sorry this is upside down, here I'll move it. What the fence is always trying to do due to gravity is it's always trying to sag in this direction right here. So this end is trying to drop. And if that's the fence post there, what you're doing is counteracting that dropping by putting in this diagonal piece. So as the fence wants to sag in the middle, this board here transmits that force, that gravity force, down to the hinge, so it actually can't twist. So we're going to cut this piece to fit into here, and that's why we left this 5/8 of an inch deep, so that this board will end up flush with this 2x4. So let's do the easiest way is just to mark it in place. So we're going to line it up, corner to corner. Okay, and then we'll make a mark right here, and right here. We'll cut that first. Okay, so next we're going to secure that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this piece of wood underneath here so that I can step on these boards and pull them tight together. So we're making sure the boards are where we want them. They look pretty good. And in this case I'm using 1¼ stainless 15 gauge brad nails. So stainless ones are kind of hard to come by, but you can get them on Amazon or anything like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to step on this, and we're going to put brads all the way down here so they're securing the boards to the cross piece and then to the end. And then what you could do to keep the end of this from twisting is put a few in the end of it into the 2x4. Same down here. And these 15 gauge brads are finishing nails are nice because you can hardly see them, and they won't rust, and they're approved for use in this type of wood, so they're really great. So next thing I want to do is once we make sure the spacing of our boards is good, we essentially want to make this panel one complete solid unit. So we're going to put brads in, or finish nails again, in the areas where they're pitched the ends of the boards here. We're going to nail through the ends of the 2x4 into the lattice. We might have an issue with this board here twisting because it's only on that one pin, remember. So the pin is keeping us rigid this way. We're going to put a few brad nails in to keep it from twisting over time. And nailing the ends of these, not every one, but adds rigidity in this direction. Okay, so there you have it. A nice fence gate. You can now install. You can feel it's super rigid in this direction. So like I said, the post will be here, so this is preventing any sag, and this will be in the yard, and this will be facing the road, so it gives a nice clean finish, and it's a pretty nice fence and fairly easy to build. So hopefully that helped you guys out.